although very little is known about its intended purpose. The aircraft appears to offer capability in a number of roles, including long-range interception and precision attack. In terms of weapon carriage, the J-20 has a similar arrangement to that of the Lockheed Martin F-22, comprising two lateral bays for small air-to-air missiles, such as the Agile, imaging infrared PL-10, and a large under-fuselage bay for accommodating larger missiles and precision-guided surface attack weapons.
Beijing rejected the overture but kept the fighters, which were reverse-engineered into the sturdier, but heavier, Chengdu J-7. Production began slowly due to the chaos of the Cultural Revolution, but between 1978 and 2013 Chinese factories turned out thousands of the pencil fuselage jet fighters in dozens of variants. Nearly 400 still serve in the plug-and-play NAF. The J-7 is a 1950s-era hot rod in terms of maneuverability and speed. It can keep up with an F-16 at Mach 2, but it cannot carry much fuel or armament, and it has a weak radar in its tiny nose cone. Still, China has worked to keep the J-7 relevant. The J-7G introduced in 2004 includes an Israeli Doppler radar, detection range, 37 miles, and improved missiles for beyond visual range capabilities, as well as a digital glass cockpit. These aircraft would struggle against modern fourth-generation fighters that can detect and engage adversaries at much greater ranges, though hypothetically mass formations could attempt to overwhelm defenders with swarm attacks. Still, the J-7s allow China to maintain a larger force of trained pilots and support personnel until new designs come into service. Another Soviet-era clone is the Xi'an H-6, a twin-engine strategic bomber based on the early 1950s-era Tu-16 Badger. Though less capable than the US B-52 or Russian Tu-95 Bear bombers, the air-refuelable H-6K remains relevant because it could lug heavy long-range cruise missiles, hit naval or ground targets as far as 4,000 miles from China without entering the range of air defenses. The H-6 was originally tasked with dropping nuclear weapons, but the PLF no longer seems interested in this role. Xi'an is reportedly developing a new H-20 strategic bomber, though there's little information available so far. In the mid-1960s, China began working on genuinely home-designed combat jets, leading to the Shenyang J-8 debuting in 1979. A large twin-turbojet supersonic interceptor that could attain Mach 2.2 and resembled a cross between the MiG-21 and the larger Su-15. The J-8 lacked modern avionics and maneuverability. However, the succeeding J-8-2 variant improved on the former with an Israeli radar and a new pointy nose cone, making it a fast but heavy weapons platform a bit like the F-4 Phantom. Around 150 are still operational. The 200-plus Xi'an JH-7 Flying Leopards, which entered service in 1992, are beefy two-seat naval attack fighter bombers that can lug up to 20,000 pounds of missiles and have a top speed of Mach 1.75. Though they wouldn't want to get in a dogfight with opposing contemporary fighters, they may not have to if they can capitalize on long-range anti-ship missiles. The Chengdu. In a remarkably short time frame, China developed two distinct stealth fighter designs. 20 Chengdu J-20s entered PLF service in 2017. Unlike the F-22 Raptor, designed to be the ultimate air superiority fighter, or the single-engine multi-role F-35 Lightning, the J-20 is a huge twin-engine beast optimized for speed, range and heavy weapons loads at the expense of maneuverability. The J-20 might be suitable for surprise raids on land or sea targets, though its larger rear-aspect radar cross-section could be problematic, or to sneak past enemy fighters to take out vulnerable support tanks. What we see isn't necessarily surprising, but it is interesting nonetheless. In the main ventral bays, the J-20 is carrying 4 PL-15 medium to long-range air-to-air missiles. The type is somewhat analogous to the American AIM-120D AMRAAM. Speculation about what missile actually would hold the PL-15 designation has bounced around a lot, with very long-range missiles and those fitted with throttleable ramjets also potentially receiving the designation, but now it seems the PL-15 is indeed a dual-pulse motor and ESA-equipped missile with a similar profile as its predecessor PL-12. The PL-12 is loosely analogous to the AIM-120AB. Note that even with their clipped fins, only 4 PL-15s are mounted in the J-20's bays in a similar fashion to the E-22's missile configuration. It isn't clear exactly what the launch mechanism for these missiles is based on these photos. A staggered arrangement with 6 PL-15s may be possible in the future by the looks of the bays, but this depends a lot on how the missiles are ejected from the bay itself. The F-22 uses a trapeze launcher system to chuck the missiles clear of the bay. The J-20's main weapons bays also look remarkably uncluttered, which makes one wonder if the missiles are just mounted to static hardpoints inside, but this is doubtful as what appear to be launchers have been visible in the J-20's bays for years. The most interesting part of this display of the J-20's lethal payload carrying abilities is the pair of PL-10s deployed on the outside of the jet's side weapons bays. This novel configuration is one of the most fascinating aspects of the J-20's design. able to reach out over a dozen miles or so, possibly substantially farther according to different assessments. This missile, combined with its ability to ride outside of the J-20's side bays, can be used as a silent assassin of sorts. The J-20 can leverage its stealth and sneak up on targets without emitting any electromagnetic energy, using just its advanced passive avionics, which includes electronic surveillance measures, infrared search and track and electro-optical targeting systems, and third-party sensor data fed to it via data link, to locate its prey. In other words, the J-20 can take advantage of the PL-10 when maximum emissions control tactics are used or when it has snuck up on its target and gets within close, but not yet short range. Using these methods, the J-20 pilot can also use the PL-10 for offensive tasks when its longer-range missiles are expended without refueling. It has been in development for more than a decade, during which China has poured billions into its air force. The wings have been modeled on the U.S. Northrop Grumman B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. That strategic bomber was designed to penetrate anti-aircraft defenses and drop devastating nuclear payloads. The trial date for the Hong-20 has not been announced, but its unveiling is a huge milestone for the Chinese Air Force. Little information is available, but it will carry CJ-10K air-launched cruise missiles, according to experts at the drive. They believe the jet will give China a new strategic capability to deter potential opponents. Importantly, the Hong-20 also completes the country's so-called nuclear triad. This consists of ground-based ballistic missiles, submarine-launched ballistic missiles and the long-range nuclear-capable bombers. This comes at a time of unprecedented diplomatic tension between China and the United States. Last month, Donald Trump escalated his bitter trade war with China by imposing $200 billion of tariffs on goods arriving from the country. In recent months, the U.S. has also sent its warships to the South China Sea, where Beijing has laid claim to dozens of islands. In August,
area where the US and China have indirectly competed has been in combat aviation. In November, China debuted the Chengdu J-20, a large, stealthy jet that some have compared to the F-22 Raptor. But according to experts, the J-20 is not a fighter, not a dogfighter, not stealthy, and not at all like the F-22 or F-35. But the J-20 is a fundamentally different sort of aircraft than the F-35. The J-20 as high-speed, long-range, not quite as stealthy, as US 5th-gen aircraft, but the Chinese clearly don't see that as important. The J-20 is not a fighter, but an interceptor and a strike aircraft that doesn't seek to contend with US jets in air-to-air battles. Instead, the Chinese are recognizing they can attack critical airborne support systems like AWACS and refueling planes, so they can't do their job, because if you can force the tankers back, then the F-35s and other platforms aren't sufficient because they can't reach their target. Without tanker planes to refuel, US jets like the F-35 have a severely limited range. The J-20, in particular, is different than the F-22 in the context that, if you take a look and analyze the design, it may have some significant low observable capabilities on the front end, but not all aspects, nor is it built as a dogfighter. What the J-20 lacks in stealth and dogfighting ability, it makes up for by focusing on a single, comparatively soft type of target. Unlike the US, which has fielded extremely stealthy aircraft, China lacks the experience to create a plane that baffles radars from all angles. In fact, the Chinese made serious missteps when trying to integrate